So today I'd like to talk about non-violent communication. And non-violent communication is a great type of communication. It's the only type of communication, obviously. Violent communication is not communication, even though it appears on the surface to be it, because it's just about control. So control is interesting because where there's control, it's all one way. I want to change things to fit in with how I think they should be, and there's no other way. So violent communication is really judging and controlling, and so that's pretty crap. Violent communication is crap, and we all do it. Most of us do it almost all of the time without realizing it, and that's demeaning for ourselves. It's demeaning for the other person or other people, and it doesn't do any good, and it is totally crap. So the whole insight about non-violent communication is great, I think. And the whole thing about giraffes and jackals is great. That's good, I think. It's a great insight, but the reason I want to talk about it is because I kind of want to use it to make a point. Very, very simple point, easy point to get across. And it's a point that I've made quite often, I know. So I'm guilty of making the same point. I often do tend to make the same point over and over again. But it's a good point, and it's a simple point. And I'm hoping to maybe make it in a slightly different way. So it is the same point, but maybe making it in a slightly different way. Maybe it can be a bit clearer that way. For me, if not for anybody else, possibly, hopefully, although maybe not. So the point really is about the relationship between insight and what we do with that insight. So the insight is great, real eye-opener. Lots of people never have the insight, I'm sure. Lots of people might slightly have it, but then forget about it instantly. And so that's really, really good. But what do we do with that insight? How do we use it? Where do we go with it? Can we use it to make a recipe? And the answer is yes, indeed, we can use it to make a recipe. We can use all insights to make a recipe. I'm talking in the psychological sphere here. Not particularly in any other sphere, such as culinary spheres or whatever other type of spheres there might be. And yes, it is a recipe. It can be a recipe, but is it a good recipe? Does it help at all? So on the face of it, most of us would say, most of us do say, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool recipe. But the point I'm making is actually something weird happens here when we try to make an insight into a recipe. Something weird happens in the sense that what was good turns bad, basically. Which is an old thing, really. What's very, very good turns very, very bad. The good or the badder. An excellent example of that is religion. Boy, that's a really good example. And Jung says this, and other people say this, that the brighter the flash of pure revelatory insight, which is what lies at the heart of all religion, all religious movements, is that flash, which is like an intense revelatory moment that makes us look at the world in a totally different way, completely trashes everything in our old way of understanding things. The biggest experience that a human being is capable of having, the experience of numinosity, as Jung puts it. So that's great. It's the biggest experience we're capable of. Other experiences, yeah, 10 a penny. Get fed up with them. They could be crappy. They could be whatever. But numinosity, no, that never gets old. Numinosity doesn't get old. But the greater the numinosity, the greater that initial insight, the more trouble goes on later on, because what happens is we turn it into a way of looking at things that we now get very enthusiastic about. We say, yes, this is it, this is it. We create a dogma. We punish people for not believing it. We try and force things to happen the way that our insight happened quite naturally, with the result that the exact opposite happens. So the religion, and the whole initial thing about the religion, whatever religion it is to help us, not really to oppress us and confuse us and completely put us down the wrong road. But that is, as we know exactly what religion does, it turns into the antithesis of itself. It gets turned on its head. We never spot it happening. So it's also true not just with any individual mystic who has an insight, it's true for the whole religion in itself. Look at Christianity. Jesus is pretty cool, says cool stuff. He's pretty cool. He's not a bad guy. He's a really good guy, obviously. But look at Christianity. Say no more, say no more, say no more. It's easy to see how Philip K. Dick would have come to the conclusion that actually something very dodgy happened, that the forces of darkness and deception took over the mantle of Christianity without letting on that they'd taken over. And there's that whole thing of how clever the devil can be, because he doesn't go around saying, hey guys, I'm the devil, worship me. He becomes a priest, or he becomes an archbishop or a cardinal. God knows what. He becomes a religious leader because he's smart. He's not thick. He does the smart thing. Doesn't do the good thing because it's not good, but it's smart and it fools everybody. It's fooled all of us anyway. So anyway, that's a little bit of an aside. The thing about non-violent communication is that this is a kind of a subset or a special instance of psychological aggression in general. So just to recap, psychological aggression, in the sense that Chogyam Trungpa talks about it, is where you want to, in a very fundamental way, we really, really do want to, and that's our agenda, and we don't ever question it, change things to be the way that we think they should be. That most basic of human things. That is like the motivating force for almost everything we do. And we always feel that we're great to do that, because we think that the way we think things should be is actually true and good and right, and all other ways are bad. So we feel like a freaking hero in our aggression. That justifies our aggression. So we get to be totally aggressive and clap ourselves on the back the whole time for it. We give ourselves a medal. Now, aggression, psychological aggression, it has lots of bad consequences. For one, it means that we're always trying to control people, and we're judging people, and we're judging them wrong, and we're trying to control them. So that's crap. As we all know, there's nothing feels worse than that. And the other thing, it's bad for us, because when we're aggressive, that's a one-way street. We know how it is. We want everything else to conform or fall in with that. Therefore, we've stopped having information coming the other way. There's no receiving. There's no two-way thing. So communication is two-way. That's what we mean by communication. Like if I tie you up and gag you so I can talk to you, but you can't answer me back, that's not communication. That's aggression. And that's what we do the whole time. And so that's the idea of non-violent communication, is that we're not listening, we don't care, we just want to output our own biases the whole time. And that doesn't have any good consequences for anyone. It doesn't have good consequences for anyone else. It doesn't have good consequences for me, because actually it's kind of as if I've gone totally mad. I've become disconnected from reality. I've turned into a completely mad machine, just firing off. And that mad machine is going to go to a bad place, because mad machines always do. Because the machines are stupid. They're very, very confident, very, very sure of themselves, very, very stupid, completely blind. So that's not a good recipe, obviously. And that's what we're like when we're aggressive. We think we've got the right thing. And that's only because we're not looking, which isn't a good reason to come to the conclusion. We're not examining stuff, so that's not examining stuff isn't really a good reason for thinking that what we're not examining is good. It just means that we can't be bothered to find out, basically. So anyway, non-violent communication isn't good in that sense. Well, ultimately maybe it is, because it can create situations where we can learn from. But even though we can say that on the whole it's not a good thing, it creates suffering. It's a suffering creating thing for everyone. So the insight is great because it just penetrates, allows us to see through all that and actually see something real, something really, really interesting and really, really helpful. And it's a rare thing. A lot of people will probably go from one end of their life to the other without ever having that insight. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people never will have that. And maybe some people do, but they forget about it pretty much instantaneously. So then it stands to reason that we can say, okay, insight has got to be a good thing. Well, we can say insight's a good thing, but it stands to reason we can say that turning that into a recipe or method sounds great. Almost all of us will say, yes, that sounds great, let's do that. I'm on board. I'll jump on board with that. Count me in. And that's understandable, so understandable. Of course we're going to say that. But the problem is, and it's a problem that we can skip over without seeing it at all, is that straight away the original impulse, which is pure and good and helpful, gets contaminated and gets switched over to the dark side, the old dark side, without anyone ever knowing just how it works. So why is that, we might ask? Why the hell would that happen? And it happens because we get the insight, number one, that all that's going on is this violent communication the whole time. We want to do something about it because it's crap, and it creates responsible for creating an awful lot of the shit that happens in life and the suffering that goes on. So then the impulse is to charge ahead, but that original impulse was insight. It wasn't trying to change anything. It's pure, unsullied insight. And then the recipe is different, because why do we have a recipe? Because we want to effect a change. We want to change things. We want to make things be different. So it's been co-opted by thought, and thought says, yes, this is a good idea. We must change all the violent communication into non-violent communication, and everything will be good, better. So we've put Satan in charge again. And we've put the thinking mind in charge again. And the better the insight, the more powerful the insight, or dramatic the insight, the more potent the insight, the more the thinking mind wants to get involved. And it really does want to get involved, and it makes sure it does, and it turns everything on its head and makes a hash of the whole thing. There's no way should you ever put the thinking mind in charge. Stuff like that. Wrong man for the job. It's like putting Count Dracula in charge of the national blood banks. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. That's kind of stupid, to put it mildly. So, what happens is that we're entirely operating on this thing that I'm going to do something special or different or enact some kind of protocol, some kind of method so as to change both my behavior and maybe by other people, by leading by example, maybe other people as well, but predominantly my behavior. I'm going to change myself from being violent because I am violent. So I'm going to change myself from being violent. So violent so I can feel a bit better about myself. So, of course, what am I doing? I'm being violent towards my violence. I've got double violence. I'm attacking my violence with new, improved violence. But say, but it's all for the good. But it isn't, because it doesn't go to the good. It's just another level. We've stepped it up to another level. So straight away, I'm investing everything in this attempt to change the way that I am. Now, of course, I can do that. And if I've got the dedication and the enthusiasm, I can do it very thoroughly. But am I really changing anything? Am I really changing my spots? Or am I putting putting more clothes on, different type of clothes on? Because as Alan Watts says, you can dress up in any outfit it likes. It can dress up like a bishop, it can dress up like a judge, it can wear rags or silk, put on any sort of uniform at all, but it's the same old ego that is wearing the clothes. That's the one thing the ego can't change is itself. It can change its manifestations. So now we have a situation where we've got an agenda, which means that everything's under the control of the thinking mind. I've got an agenda to change things, which I do in accordance with this recipe. And so all the energy, all the emphasis, all the investment goes in changing. So I'm busy now. I'm busy. I've learned the thing that I want to learn. I've got the insight. And now I'm trying to get it to work out in some way. So the result of that is, generally speaking, I could have a perception of myself that I amn't violent because I've repressed my true violent nature and forced it to conform to some garb, to some appearance of non-violence. It's totally phony. Obviously, it's totally phony because nothing that happens on purpose is sincere. Nothing that happens on purpose is sincere. It's only when it happens by itself it's sincere. When it happens by itself, it happens by itself. You can't have a recipe for things happening by themselves. You can't cause something to happen by itself. So then now I'm in a situation where I'm no longer honestly relating to my own violence. Instead, I've fooled myself that I'm non-violent. What have I gained from that? Well, obviously, I'm being sarcastic there because I've gained delusion from that. And also I've gained a kind of a smugness, this kind of spiritual smugness. Like we all know, anyone who has anything to do with the kind of so-called spiritual world, we all know about spiritual smugness. The feeling that I'm non-violent. I'm coming from the right place. I'm on the side of the angels. I'm coming from the right place. So that kind of smugness, but it isn't true because I'm violent, fooling myself. I'm refusing to admit who I really am. So if I was honest with myself, I'd see I'm violent. I am violent. And I can actually watch myself be violent because that's my nature. And I have to respect my nature. I have to respect my violent nature. I have to observe it and respect it. And so in that case, I'm not smug because I can see that I'm actually pure aggressive. And I'm driven by the mind. I'm driven by this ridiculous reflex of the ego trying to improve itself or create a good impression to others and to both others and myself the whole time. I don't get smug about that. There's nothing to get smug about. It's a pretty awful situation. It's a screwed up situation. It's screwed up because it's awful, but it is natural at the same time. So it's all part of the way things work. So then we have two possibilities. One, I can kid myself that I'm non-violent or spiritual and think I've arrived already and spend the rest of my life involved in bullshit. That's an option. The other option is to carry on being the way that I am, but consciously. And so there's still sincerity there. And because there's sincerity there, because I'm relating to myself as I am, as I actually am, I'm not trying to change myself or judge myself. And because there is that sincerity and there is that relationship with the way that I actually am, the unredeemed self, the rotten, crappy self, etc., the shadow. Because there is that relationship which hasn't been blocked off with judging. See how fucking religion and spirituality, it's all judging, control, judging, control, violence. But when there isn't that judging and control, and when I have got a relationship with the way that I actually am, the unredeemed way, then out of that can come change, does come change, all by itself, not part of a recipe.